All right, we're back at it again. RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella here, moving and grooving on this Saturday morning, October the 4th, 2025. Hard to believe it's our 34th episode here at the All Access Football Daily Show. Thank you so much for buckling up, hunkering down, tuning in each and every day. We got a jam-packed show for you. A lot of college football action. In case you're new to the show on Saturdays, it's our college football pregame show with a little bit of an NFL draft slant. And we're going to go around the marquee matchups, highlight some key prospects for you to know on the 2026 NFL radar. As we count you down to destination Pittsburgh, we're about 200 days away to that 2026 NFL draft. And here with me each and every week is our residential scout, formerly of the UCLA Bruins, Cleveland Browns, LA Rams, contributor to CBS Sports Today, also the Football GM Junior Draft Guide. He's here with me each and every week. Football GM and scouting course over at the Sports Management Worldwide. Check them out at SMWW. That is going to be starting up real soon. And we missed him last week. It wasn't the same without Russ Lande. How you doing today, Russ?
I feel better. I'm back in the U.S. I'm not screwed up with the time change, so life is good. I'm not stuck in a taxi on a Saturday, so all is good.
Yeah, man, we missed you, and we appreciate the efforts as you were across the pond over there.
Exactly.
Big timer you are these days. So we'll try to have a little bit of fun as we go around the league, Russ, and a lot to get to. We're going to get into some marquee matchups later on in the show. We'll have Miami at Florida State, the Florida Cup, some SEC showdowns with Vanderbilt at Alabama, Texas at Florida. We've got Boise State at Notre Dame. But quick recap of the Friday Night Lights. We had 5 games in action. And I previewed that on yesterday's show on Friday. So just to follow up here, you know, BYU took care of business 38-24 over West Virginia. Chase Roberts, big, long, lengthy receiver, 4 catches for $161. You know, he's been incredibly productive for the Cougars, over 2,000 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns, Russ. And you saw it last night, big play after big play. BYU still undefeated, I believe, at 5-0 here.
Yeah, and I think you have to look not only at BYU at how well they're playing, but what's going on West Virginia. I mean, everybody thought they were going to start getting this thing in order, so it's a little scary. Yeah, you mentioned Roberts; he's a big kid. Everybody seems to think this kid's got a chance. Does he have the top end go? We don't know, but he's got the size. He's been very productive. I think NFL teams are intrigued. He's going to get an opportunity. I don't know how high it's going to be, but he's going to get an opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Western Kentucky University, 27-24 over Delaware. This was a close game. Delaware taking that bump up to the FBS. But, you know, I mentioned him on yesterday's show. We wrote him up earlier in the season, this Maverick McIver. And coming into this game, he had over 1,400 passing yards. I would imagine he leads the nation in passing after last night, another 230 passing yards on the Senior Bowl watch list, Russ. And you know, we don't know about the underclassmen, who's going to declare, who's going to come out, but Maverick McIver, very good-looking quarterback, and I think he has a legitimate shot to be down there in Mobile.
Oh, I think there's no question. I mean, when you watch him last night, I mean, the thing you have to like is, I mean, yeah, is he a huge kid, that 6'5", 6'4" kid that everybody dreams of? No, but he's got good size. He's over 6 foot. He has really good mechanics. The ball comes out really well. I mean, he has every throw, the mechanics look the same, which is what you ideally want. Ball comes out with pace. He's accurate. He doesn't look like he panics. Add in the fact he looks like a pretty good athlete. He looks like a kid who can move around. He's not just a pocket guy. And we've talked about it a lot over the years. In the last 5 years, pocket passers can succeed. But if you have the added bonus of being able to move and get out and do things, that opens up a lot of doors in today's NFL. He can do that. I will say the interesting thing on the other side, 2 guys jumped out that I had seen clips of, but I had not really gotten to watch a lot of. Their big running back, 27, Got to love this kid for Delaware. Physical, violent runner. The only thing that concerns me is there were 2 or 3 times on that toss sweep he got tracked down before he get the line of scrimmage, which screams lack of playing speed. You wonder if this is a guy, when you watch him run, there's a little bit of Kareem Hunt in the kid. He breaks tackles, he's physical, but he doesn't have that juice to get the edge. I wonder if he's going to be a guy that teams look at, maybe consider as sort of that third down, short yardage power guy, because he is a physical runner who keeps his feet. And they got this big tight end, 88. Looks like an offensive lineman. I would bet the kid's 275, 285. Looks more like a blocker, but phenomenal hands. And I got to look at that as, hey, most NFL teams nowadays, they have the receiving guy. Then they have the guy that they make a blocker. Well, if you're going to make a blocker, this kid did that. He was very productive. You think about this kid blocking at the NFL level as a backup, catching balls in emergency situations. He was intriguing. I have to do a little more film work on him. But seeing him over the course of the game, a few scouts had said you should peek at this kid. He's intriguing as a big sort of blocking tight end, but he has really nice hands. He can't run, but he is really nice.
Well, hey, Delaware did have that running back down there in the Senior Bowl last year, I believe. So, hey, Delaware on the come up, and I was watching the game with Angelico, a player that caught her attention, and he's not on the NFL radar, but he's out of New Jersey. I got to give him a shout out. Don Bosco Prep State champion, Nick Minicucci. Who's this Minicucci? To the left, Minicucci to the right. And he had 3 rushing touchdowns, 55 yards rushing, 314 yards through the air, putting the Delaware Blue Hens on the map. That Nick Minicucci, they fall short 27-24. And that one, South Florida just romped Charlotte with the backdoor cover at the end, 54-26. We've spoken about Bryce Brown in the past over there at USF, and his draft stock just continues to soar. 19-34, 211 passing yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, $162 on the ground, and another rushing touchdown. He's accounted for 13 total touchdowns now this year.
A real athletic kid, trying to figure out, does he have the passing skill to really make it? But you got to look at him and think, at worst, he can be that sort of emergency roster filler. I can fill in as your if things go sideways at quarterback, I can get you out of a game, even though he's probably not a good enough thrower to really play quarterback and be that guy at the NFL. Additionally, we both have done time in the CFL. When you watch this kid, to me, he screams CFL because he has that little bit of like Chris Streveler. I can take the ball, I can run with it, but I can also make throws. I mean, he may not be the picture-perfect thrower, but there are a lot of guys that have been very successful in the CFL because their athleticism opens up the field. They can get outside the pocket. They can find guys while they're moving. This guy screams out to me, I'm going to be playing up there in Canada. May not make as much money, but I honestly think a lot of players enjoy it more up there.
Yeah, well, he reminds me of a bigger version of Malik Willis, so we'll see what happens to Bryce Brown and his draft status. San Jose State 35, New Mexico 28. I talked about Walker Egert, who wasn't having a spectacular season until last week. He had a trifecta of touchdowns against Stanford, follows up with another trifecta of touchdowns last night, 334 passing yards, 26 of 30, which was good because his completion percentage was down in the 50 percentile coming into this game. And he's another one of these Senior Bowl quarterbacks here trying to recoup some of that draft stock, but I think he's maybe on the outside looking in terms of being a day 3 guy just yet.
Yeah, I think so. I think the reality is, and I say it all the time when we have our chats, that we've been doing this a long time. There are very few quarterbacks that have made it from college and been successful at the NFL level that aren't accurate throwers. Even guys that are maybe at the fringe level of accuracy, that's tough. You have to at least be able to make the throws consistently that are there for the taking. And he has struggled to do that consistently, especially this year, which definitely raises a concern. I think he's probably a guy that's going to end up at one of the, not the East-West, not the Senior, but one of those secondary bowls, whether it's the Tropic, the Hula, one of those. And he'll get a chance to show scouts, hey, you know what? I may not have done it in the season, but here, maybe not explain the reason, but show them in the game and in the practice that he can be accurate. That's what he's got to prove. He has to prove he can make the throws that are out there for him on an accurate, consistent basis.
Yeah, otherwise he'll be playing in the United Football League, that Walker Egert. All right, how about one last one? San Diego State, late night affair, 45-24 over Colorado State. One more Senior Bowl watch guy, Chris Johnson, big, lengthy, physical corner, 5 tackles, 2 pass deflections, Ross, and he's a name you need to know, kind of under the radar there out there in San Diego State.
Well, there's no doubt. Firstly, especially we know nobody on the East Coast is staying up to watch San Diego State, Colorado State. So nobody out probably east of Arizona has probably seen this kid. But we also know in the NFL, if you corners over 6 foot, that's what everybody's looking for. This kid's got that. He's got length. He's got production. So there's no doubt he should be getting a long look to go to one of these big all-star games because it's hard enough to find 5'11" corners that can play in the NFL. So when you stumble across a kid that's over 6 feet, has good athleticism. He's got great ball skills. He's willing to stick his nose in there. That alone warrants consideration as a guy you have to look at. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to actually getting to see him at one of these all-star games and getting to say, okay, what I see in film, is he as athletic as what he shows on the film when you're watching it?
Yeah, and that's a guy you hope that he gets down there to Mobile and see that step up in competition. If he can hang, that could go a long ways towards his draft stock come April. All right, Russ Lande, Ric Serritella. We're about 200 days away, Russ, from the 2026 NFL draft. Hard to believe the football season is just flying by. I mean, what are we in NFL week 5, college football week 6, and a lot of good matchups to get to. Let's start off. I was surprised by this line. Notre Dame favored by 3 scores over Boise State. Boise State 3-1, Notre Dame 2-2, playing better. Of course, they got the freshman quarterback, CJ Carr, who's been making some noise for the Fighting Irish. Jeremiah Love not really off to the start that he would like. And I still see Jeremiah Love being mocked in first-round drafts a lot around the internet universe, but I don't know. It's kind of hard. I mean, his counterpart, I think we talked about it, Jadarian Price has kind of been the more effective runner there. But break it down, Boise State at Notre Dame. This one's going to be 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on NBC.
Well, firstly, I think it's sort of you look at Notre Dame early on, first few games of the season, there was a lot of questions as you watched them. Were they good enough? You really thought, wow, this team may not be where they are. Is Carr good enough? Obviously, he's not a superstar yet, but for a kid that's basically just showed up on campus, I think he's gotten better quickly. I think you have to be at Notre Dame. You got to be pretty excited about, hey, we've got him now and given. In today's portal world,
I think he's the grandson of Lloyd Carr. If I'm not
he is exactly. Yeah. So you think about it, you say this is a kid that if we can keep the portal and keep everything surrounding this kid, keep him here, they could get him for another 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And you talk about a kid that could really help a program. I think he's playing very efficient, smart football. I think he's only going to get better. Considering the first game, I was stunned at how sort of lost he looked, which is not uncommon for a first college start. You mentioned Love. Yeah, there's got to be some concern there. There's been ups and downs. He hasn't been the guy we all expected. I understand people constantly are talking about him still as a first-round guy, but I want to see more from him. I want to see him show it to me on the field. I haven't seen him do it. You hate to say it, and don't want to kill Boise. Obviously, they're 3-1, and where the program has come in the last 20 years. But I do think just lining up man-to-man, I do think Notre Dame, this is a game they're going to have a big advantage, especially in the trenches. I think they're going to be able to control it. So I lean towards Notre Dame actually winning this and covering.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? They are at home. It could get ugly, but I will say one guy in the trenches for Boise State is this Cage Casey, who's gotten my eye, 6'5", 316 out of Happy Valley, Oregon. I don't know how Oregon let this kid go. But man, he's just a people mover, enormous, forceful presence, plays with a violent type of
and he could be really the key. Because for Boise to keep it close, they're going to have to find a way to make Carr uncomfortable. Because the one thing we've seen is, yes, he may not have been great early, but each game, I think he's become more comfortable. He's getting more used to being the guy. They've done a good job, although I don't think they have a dominant offensive line. They've done a good job with some veteran linemen of keeping him upright, giving him protection. Really, this is the one guy Boise can hopefully count on to disrupt the pocket. If he can't disrupt the pocket, I just don't see how they're going to be able to slow down what I think is a above average offense for Notre Dame, not a top level one, but a good enough one to be able to push Boise State around.
Yeah, Malachi Fields, the wide receiver there, 6'3", 212 pounds, making some noise. Of course, Jaden Greathouse in the national championship really caught my attention, but he really hasn't come on here like I thought he would. And you mentioned Jalen Stroman on previous shows, the safety out of Notre Dame, and Eli Raritan continues to make plays. A tight end, good-looking tight end. Notre Dame has a reputation for putting out some good-looking tight ends, and he's one to keep an eye on, that Eli Raritan there for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So Russ has got Notre Dame in a blowout. I don't know. I think 21 points is a lot.
It is a lot. Hey, I'm not saying it's
and it's only going up.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
I don't think it's going to be like butt kicking. I think what you're going to see is you're going to see that Notre Dame is going to probably keep it within 10 to 12 points, and late in the game, I think it'll get away from them. That's really what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be late in the game what you're going to see.
Yeah, I could see it. All right, Russ Lande, Ric Serritella here. We're about a third of the way through the show. Just recap the Friday Night Lights. Got into a little Boise State at Notre Dame action. When we come back from the commercial break, we'll turn our attention over to the SEC. Vanderbilt at Alabama, Texas at Florida. Some real good-looking games, Russ. We're going to talk about it and be about it right after this commercial break here on the All Access Football Daily Show. Keep it locked, everybody. Hey, RIC and a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world-famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world-famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report, published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, we're back at it again. RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella here on the world famous All Access Football Daily Show. We're locked in on the college football pregame show with a little bit of NFL draft slant. And while we were on commercial break, I just saw Pete Thamel with a little bit of, I don't know if we call it breaking news, but Pittsburgh and Boston College in a Northeast slobber knocker affair. This one has recruiting ramifications. These two schools recruit that Northeast area, especially here in New Jersey, and they are making a switch at the quarterback position, which is a little bit surprising. Mason Heinschel getting his first career start. The 18-year-old freshman replaces Eli Holston, who had been considered the redshirt sophomore to be an NFL prospect. So a little bit of breaking news here for the Pittsburgh-Boston College game. And here to break it down and chop it up with me each and every Saturday, our residential scout, former UCLA Bruins recruiting coordinator, Cleveland Browns scout, St. Louis, then Rams scout, CBS Today, GM Junior, SMWW football GM and scouting course. Man, we got to get a couple sheets of paper for the resume when we introduce Russ Lande here on the All Access Football Show. And there he is right there. What's going on, Russ?
Well, I'm just sitting here just saying, wow, Boston College making the change. I mean, I think it tells you it may not even be his performance. I think it may be the fact that they've lost 3 straight games. They're trying to do anything to sort of get the ship righted because obviously Bill O'Brien, I mean, we know he's a good coach, but BC, they got to get this going. I mean, this is a huge rivalry. You talk about winning the Northeast battle for recruiting since Penn State, since Joe Pop, since he left. It's not that Penn State doesn't recruit that area now. It's just much more open. So it's a huge battle between Penn State, Pitt, Rutgers, obviously, and Boston College. So this is a big game.
And Syracuse now with Fran Brown, he's been recruiting all kinds of guys.
It's unbelievable what they've been able to pull at Syracuse. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, unbelievable there. Every time I look up, oh, this guy's from Camden, this guy's from Newark, this guy's from Irvington, Fran Brown going into the inner cities of New Jersey and pulling out all the talent. But Narduzzi, he's been famous for raiding New Jersey. And Bill O'Brien, I got to say, is one of the best coaches in terms of access for scouts when we come through. He rolls out the red carpet for us. So, well, that's going to be a good game, I think, 12 o'clock Eastern. But, hey, we're going to turn our focus on the SEC spotlight because there's some marquee matchups that we got to break down. And let's start off with the Texas Longhorns, Russ. Coming off the bye week, we saw Arch Manning get a little bit of his mojo back against Sam Houston State, had some swagger going on. And the Gators are 1-3. They're in trouble. And Texas favored on the road, 6.5 going into the Swamp. Now, I alluded to this earlier in the week, where I was watching Billy Napier and the Florida Gators 4-minute offense 2 weeks ago against LSU. They were down 20-10, and Billy Napier didn't know the rules. So, the college football new format now, the clock doesn't stop if you go out of bounds, except for the final 2 minutes of the game, 2 minutes of the half. And here's Florida orchestrating this 4-minute offense with no urgency, no awareness. And they kept running out of bounds, Russ, thinking that the clock stopped. And the clock's got tick, 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 tick. And nobody even was aware, not DJ Lagley, the quarterback, not Billy Napier, the head coach. Nobody on the Florida Gators knew the rules. And it was just unfathomable to watch because here's Billy Napier on the hot seat, and deservingly so. And we saw Arkansas make a big move with the Sam Pittman out the door. And, John Gruden's been a hot candidate for the SEC, Arkansas, Florida. What do you make of that situation?
Well, firstly, it's weird because, hey, I understand there are definitely going to be rules occasionally that head coach may not know. But what to me is the bigger problem is, hey, every head coach has someone in his ear. That someone on the staff isn't able to say, hey, coach, hurry this up. Remember, going out of bounds doesn't do anything anymore. That someone isn't saying that is the bigger concern. I get, trust me.
A month into the season.
Exactly. This is something you expect like week 2, not of the season, but of fall camp. Like you're scrimmaging your 1s and your 2s, and you're in a 2-minute drill, and someone starts doing something. Someone has to go over to the coach and say, Coach, what's going on here? Not week 3 or 4 of the college season where you're getting paid millions of dollars a year. It's a bad sign that the head coach doesn't. I mean, it's a bad sign. It's an awful sign that someone on the staff didn't get it in his ear the first time they saw it and said, Coach, why are we going out of bounds? It doesn't help. Tell the quarterback, make sure he knows, get that message to the players. Nothing gets done. Yeah, you don't want to see change. No one in this business, everybody in this business, once you've been in it for a while, you've all been fired. That's part of working in football. You're going to get fired. So nobody ever roots for anybody to get fired. But the way it's going, you just got to wonder. I mean, this is a team with Florida that not only are they in one of the hotbeds of recruiting, but when you look at their NFL talent roster, it's not a great group of guys. They have a handful of guys that are sort of day 3 type considerations. And their best guy, unfortunately, we talked about him, I think 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, the Banks kid. This was their best player on the team, and he's now out for the year. He had foot surgery. So it's like there's your best guy. So it hasn't gone right for them. I feel actually awful for Banks. Could have been probably a first or a second round pick. Comes back to try to help the team. Plays in one game because he was injured during fall camp. One game back, gets hurt, out for the year, or 1.5 games, probably should say. Really feel terrible. But, yeah, you just got to wonder what's going on there. I mean, especially for a team with, you're talking veteran offensive line, 3 guys that are on the NFL radar. They may not be top prospects, but they're legit guys. When you look at Barber, Slaughter, and George, veteran receiver and Sturdivant, you're telling me you can't do enough to at least be competitive? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Texas, to me, I mean, everybody keeps killing Arch. Let's take a deep breath. First 4 starts of his college career. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but let's also remember a lot of good quarterbacks did not play well early on. This is a team that I think there's been a little bit of surprise with some of their players this year. Obviously, on defense, I mean, you have guys like Ethan Burke that everybody thought were going to be good players coming in. Long, linear kid, real long arms, very productive guy. But the Trey Moore kid has sort of been a guy that hasn't shown up this year. He hasn't shown up at the level you expected. And now they got a kid that wasn't even on the NFL radar, the Hero Kanu kid. This kid came into the year not even a guy that was on the list of guys to look at, and this guy's starting for Texas, and he's a senior. So it's like they're trying to find it anywhere. I think they have a great coach. I think Sark knows what he's doing. They've done a good job generally bringing in talent. I think Texas will win this game, but I don't think they're the team that everybody was hyping up prior to the season saying number 1 or number 2 team in the country. I think they have a chance of finishing top probably between 10 and 15, but top 10, I don't see it yet. I don't think Arch has gotten there, and I don't see that offense, the offensive line and the weapons really clicking yet.
No, we haven't seen it, but you know what? I'm going to reserve judgment for this week because they're coming off the bye. They had 2 weeks to prepare for this. They had some momentum. I know it was Sam Houston State, right? But
sometimes you need that, right? Sometimes
get right.
You need to get your guys feeling, especially Arch. Maybe the confidence was a little wiggly. Right. Now he gets out there, builds it up, and
I look at some of these other signal callers, Russ, like Fernando Mendoza. He's been talked about as the top pick, and it's like, well, he had 3 cupcakes leading up to that Illinois, so he had a runway leading up to that Illinois and Iowa game. He had some warm-up games. Arch Manning comes out right out of Ohio State, the SEC. I mean, so let's just see how he does here. I don't care how down and out Florida is. The Swamp is a tough place to play, right? So if they go in there and embarrass Florida, watch out now, because I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up hope on Arch Manning. I think
you can't.
The big board, the way the quarterback big board is stacking up, it's wide open, right? There's no consensus. They all have their warts, and we'll see here. But I'm expecting a big day out of Arch Manning. And, you mentioned some of these guys underperforming. Anthony Hill was coming into the season as a possible top 10 selection, just really hasn't played as good as he had last year. And maybe he's now fallen out of that first round equation. Off-ball linebacker, can get after the quarterback, situational pass rusher. Malik Muhammad is another intriguing guy, the cornerback, inside-outside versatility. I like him more as a nickel at the next level. And C.J. Baxter, I had to go back and double-check because Baxter and Wisner in that Texas backfield, redshirt sophomore, that C.J. Baxter. So he is draft eligible if he wants to dip his toes in the draft pool. 6'1", 220 pounds. He's kind of taking that lead back role. And then the other redshirt sophomore, Trevor Gooseby, who I think you just mentioned, he's gotten a lot of attention now at 6'6", 315 pounds. He's rising up the draft boards here for the Longhorns. And you mentioned Banks. That is really a big loss for the Florida Gators team, but they do still have Tyreek Sapp. Okay. So somebody there to keep an eye on. And we talked about
Devin Moore is an interesting guy, the back end. I mean, big, tall corner. We always talk about tall corners. So a kid that's 6'3", may not run as well as you'd love, but like we talked about, when you're 6'3", you don't have to run 4.3. You might be able to run 4.5s and be okay because you're long and you're tall and you can keep guys at bay and you can break up passes. So he's one that I think would be interesting to watch. I wonder how they're going to deploy him. Are they going to send him and have him follow Arch's top target, or is he going to stay set and play on one side? Because he's an intriguing guy for NFL. They don't have a big grade on him, but the length, the athleticism, there's something there with a tall corner. Yeah, I want to see how he does against better competition. LSU, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, one other guy I'm going to mention it. Well, you mentioned him, but I had completely forgotten about J. Michael Sturdivant from UCLA. And you talk about a big guy, speed. I mean, he's been timed in the 4.2 range, and it's unbelievable. Like, they can't scheme the game plan and get the ball in his hands or do something with your most polarizing player on offense there. Unbelievable when you think about it. Eugene Wilson III has been making some plays, little slot receiver there for the Florida Gators. I don't know, Russ. I have a feeling Texas is going to blow him out of the water and really put Billy Napier on the hot seat. How do you see this one?
I think Texas is going to win. I don't know if it's a blowout, but I do think they're going to win probably 10 or 12 points. I think the interesting thing here to me is you mentioned Gruden, right, as a possible, like people talk. I think the worst thing that could happen right now, not for any college head coach, but for any college that's thinking about going to make a splash and recruit Gruden, he keeps winning every appeal against the NFL.
Yeah.
Because every time he wins an appeal, it pushes more towards, all right, how does the NFL solve this? They say, all right, go ahead. You can hire him again in the NFL because that's where he wants to be. He had the Raiders winning. They were doing things the right way. Him and Carr, they were going the right way. And all of a sudden it goes sideways. He wants back in the NFL in the worst way. So
he does.
And I think that's where I think he's going to be either in the NFL or at a major Power 4 school next year.
Well, there was when the Arkansas job was last open, Gruden was doing some kind of campus interview or something, and he said, I'd love to have the Arkansas job. Now, I don't know if Arkansas has enough moolah and resources, but Florida would. I mean, they've made splashes before in the past with Steve Spurrier. Yep. And we did have a guest on the show. I'm trying to recall who it was, but their sentiment was like, hey, you sue the league, you probably going to be blackballed from the NFL owners. I don't know how true that is. Like, a guy like Jerry Jones, I don't think would care. I just wonder, though, like, he's winning this lawsuit against the NFL now. He just got he just won another court battle where now he's going to be able to access all the internal emails in the Park Avenue office and what really was transpiring with Roger Goodell behind the scenes. So that's going to be a fascinating story to watch as it unfolds here. All right.
Well, I think it really, more than anything, it just gives it does two things. It gives him leverage because now the NFL, I'm guessing, because now the only thing they can do now is appeal to the Supreme Court and say we want to keep this in arbitration. We don't want it to go to be in the court system. I have a feeling the NFL is probably going to say, hey, they're not going to drop the case, but they're going to go to Gruden and say, hey, if you really want to come back, we will not stand in the way. And trust me, there are owners that want to win. There are some that don't. There are some that just want to keep making I'd say at least half are just content to make a profit. As long as their team wins 6 to 10 games every year, they're happy. But there are owners that really want to win. And those owners are going to say, okay, what do I have to do to go get this guy? Because this guy's a hell of a coach. You give him a quarterback who's even adequate, he's probably going to put you in the playoffs on a regular basis. I think he would be a great hire for any of these teams. I mean, you think the New York Giants, you think they wouldn't be better with Gruden?
Yeah.
Let him come in and let him put his front office together, put some smart people in there. They would be running away with things there. I mean, Gruden, to me, if you're an NFL team and you're losing, you think the Cleveland Browns, you think that wouldn't be a place? You think that owner cares what the NFL does? Hey, this is a guy who half his employees at the Flyer or whatever it was, the truck stops, they went to jail. This guy all this guy wants to do is win. He's an owner that just is willing to spend the money and win. You think he wouldn't hire Gruden, let him come in, throw his front office, build his own people in there? They'd run away. They'd win so easy. This guy, to me, he's got to be back in the league.
He'll be back somewhere in 2026. I firmly believe that. All right, Russ Lande, Ric Serritella here, still shining the spotlight on the SEC. And I failed to mention Texas, number 9 in the country. But we got a great one here with 2 ranked opponents. Number 16 Vanderbilt, undefeated at 5-0. At number 10 Alabama, 3-1. This one's going to be a 3:30 affair on ABC. And I did get a chance to visit Vanderbilt down in training camp when we were down there at the symposium in Nashville. Got a first up close look at Eli Stowers. And I know the stats, like the production doesn't jump off the stat sheet, but this is about as clean as a prospect as you're going to see. Maybe not as much upside when you talk about a franchise player. But you know what? Like Colston Loveland was the first tight end off the board. Would he go 10th or 12th overall? Like I would say Eli Stowers is in the same category. Now he's 6'3" and 4/8 inches, 237 pounds. Obviously a former quarterback, but you've seen the development. Blocking still needs to be getting caught up to speed, but he's willing. He's getting better at it, and he's a playmaker at the tight end position. Anytime you have a pass catcher that can do big willy things like Eli Stowers, and we talked about Diego Pavier, who's also got a uniform waiting for him in the Canadian Football League. But, man, he did lose his appeal. He tried to sue the NCAA for like a 7th year of eligibility, Russ. He just wants to collect. I heard he's making over $2 million in NIL. He wants to collect another NIL check, that Diego Pavier. But I got to say, Alabama, I know they're playing good. Ty Simpson's been as good as any quarterback in the nation. They had the big win over Georgia. But I'm going to put Alabama on upset alert here. I think Vanderbilt has got a shot to win this thing. They come in as double-digit dogs, 10.5 points.
Oh, firstly, I couldn't agree more. I think this is going to be a real close game. Say what you want, whether Diego is an NFL guy or not, because he's little at 5'9" and change. But he's going to be a real threat for Alabama. It's going to make it real hard. And we've talked about it a ton. In the new world of football in the last 10 years, everything is so wide open. Offenses are so complex. Your center better be a rock star, and you need tackles. Well, guess what? Vanderbilt's 3 best offensive linemen are their center, and they have 2 good tackles. And they have a quarterback who can make the throws. He's athletic. Yes, he's tiny at 5'9" change. I think this is going to be a very tough matchup for Alabama. You mentioned Stowers. To me, when I watch this kid play, there's a Hunter Henry vibe. He's not super unbelievable like Pitts or Bowers athletically, but he's a really good athlete. Catches the ball well, is a little bit smaller when you look at him when you're watching him play. You don't think he's 240-ish. You think he's like 228, 230, but he's athletic. He catches the ball well, and he seems to have a great feel for spacing. He seems to understand where he's got to be. I think this game is going to be a real challenge for Alabama. I mean, yeah, they had the big upset against Georgia. I wonder if there's going to be a deep breath when you beat a team like Georgia. Nobody thought they were going to win that game. This can be a big challenge. So I think Vanderbilt's going to be not only good on offense, but they're loaded on defense. I mean, this is not a team of just guys. They've got 4 or 5 legit NFL prospects. They got 2 6-foot-plus corners. When you look at Marlon Jones and Colby Taylor, this is not going to be a game where the offense has to score 40. I think if Vanderbilt gets into the mid-to-high 20s, there's a good chance of winning this game. So I think it's going to be a very close game. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Alabama better be on point today. Their offensive line has to protect their quarterback, and their O-line to me has been very up and down this year.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second. You mentioned the Vanderbilt offensive line. Our good friend Lance Zeno down there, part of the staff of the Vanderbilt Commodores, our former offensive line coach from the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. So we're happy to hear that. And then one guy that you should just be on the lookout now. When I spoke to the coaching staff, they were under the impression he's going to return next year because he's only a junior. But Randon Fontenot, he's a safety linebacker hybrid. He was injured when I went and visited them in training camp, but he's a guy on the rise. And then Corday Sidnor, who probably is late day 3 undrafted free agent, but when you take a look at the size, 6'4" and 3/8 inches, 272 pounds, 35-inch arms, 84-inch wingspan, big 10-inch hands. This guy is a long, lengthy monster. And I tell you, his conditioning was a little bit questionable, but he did gain 15 pounds in the offseason. He came over from Purdue, where he spent 3 seasons. But just a name to keep an eye on there for Vanderbilt. And then you mentioned the Alabama offensive line. Let's give it to Caden Proctor. Did you see him catch that ball?
I did.
The offensive play for the big man. He was rumbling, bumbling, stumbling right there into the end zone. I mean, that was fun to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. Finding a guy that is that big that can catch the ball and make a play. It reminds me a little bit of about 10 years ago, that big tight end at Baylor who had that,
Oh
who
yeah.
was like 400 pounds and had that one great catch on a touchdown pass. I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
he looked like the fridge running the ball,
He
man.
did. Yeah.
360 pounds, and I think he's listed generously there. But I'm starting to really come around on Caden Proctor. Jeremy Bernard, we've talked about. I think we had our guy Chad Ryder on the show. He likes Jeremy Bernard as a first round guy. He can beat you deep. He can beat you in space, end around bubble screens, take it to the house out of Las Vegas, Nevada. LT Overton is another guy pretty high on the radar that we haven't mentioned here yet. And then Damani Jackson. I really like this kid. He might be my favorite corner. I can't really pinpoint who my favorite cornerback prospect is, but I know I like Damani Jackson at 6 foot. Yep. 191 pounds, big physical, lengthy defender with solid speed, fluid hips, ball tracking ability, tackling ability, sideline to sideline range. Damani Jackson, very good looking corner.
Yeah, he really is. And, I should have, when I mentioned for Vanderbilt that they have the center and the two tackles, I should have mentioned the intriguing kid to me of them is the kid from South Dakota, is Bryce Henderson. I mean, This kid comes down from South Dakota at Vanderbilt, 6'7 and a half. 318, long as you want. Obviously, to jump up from South Dakota to now in the SEC, he's handled himself well. This is a kid that I think is going to keep climbing NFL draft boards, because when you're at South Dakota, there's always questions. Can you make the jump? He comes down there. Now he's proving it in the SEC. I think this is a kid who has gone from day 3 when the season began to, I think he's not only day 2, I think he could end up knocking the door as a high second-round pick. Because long linear kids who are athletic and also who show that they can make that jump when the talent level increase, those are guys you like. So I'm interested to see how he plays today and also how he finishes the season.
Yeah, well, a couple other guys I want to mention, some Nick Saban holdovers here on Alabama, who's got quite a few prospects. And Deontay Lawson, who's a Mobile, Alabama native, I expect him to be down there at the Senior Bowl. Probably a day 2 linebacker. Keon Sabb is a guy, safety, that I'm keeping an eye on out of New Jersey on the back end. He's a lengthy, physical, versatile safety. And then they got back Tim Keenan III, their defensive tackle, there a couple weeks ago. He was all banged up earlier in the season, probably in that mid-round range. And we got to mention Ty Simpson. I mean, I don't think he's thrown an interception yet this year. 5-star recruit, has been biding his time patiently on that Alabama bench. And he's just busted out in a big way. Pretty good size, 6'2" and 2/8", 208 pounds. But Ty Simpson's a guy, he doesn't really get talked about as much in the tier 1 or not even the tier 2 quarterbacks, but I think he's forcing his way in that conversation.
Well, I think he definitely is. I think part of it is, I think there are certain things you're used to. And when Alabama loses, I think people sort of push guys aside. But when you watch the kid play, he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. Is he the fundamentally sound traditional pocket thrower? No. And is he the guy who's just running around like crazy making plays? No. He's sort of that guy between the two. And sometimes I think that makes it a little bit tougher for people to figure out. But yeah, he's been very efficient, hasn't made mistakes. And I think he's gotten better as the season has gone on, a little bit like the Carr kid with Notre Dame. Each game, there seems to be just a little bit more comfort level, a little bit more, hey, I'm getting the grasp of this job. So, yeah, he's played better than I think almost anybody predicted.
Yeah, a lot of good players here. We could probably go on and on and on. I advise you to go over to allaccessfootball.com, click our 2026 draft rankings tab, and you can get the team-by-team prospect previews and keep along here. Keep up pace with Russell Lande and myself here on the All Access Football Daily Show. All right, Russ, we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, it's the marquee matchup of the week, the Florida Cup. Miami 4-0 at Florida State 3-1, all pissed off after losing on Friday Night Lights to Virginia a couple weeks back. When we come back, we're going to break it down, chop it up, talk about it, be about it, and don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day Circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report, published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody. All right, we're back at it again. All right, seeing a place to be. Ric Serritella telling it like it is when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin here on our Saturday college football pregame show with an NFL draft slant. Now, we are going to highlight this Miami at Florida State matchup. And if you go over to the website, our Draft Insider, the Florida Cup preview, we've got almost 40 prospects in this game for you to digest and consume. Scouting reports, verified measurements, projections, insider intel. It's the real deal. We've been doing this since 2002. And this is your home for real football talk, the All Access Football Daily Show. And today's episode is brought to you by Value Picks. And you guys have done a wonderful job taking advantage of our combo deal this week. And you see the stack of books behind me over here. We're going to keep doing this until we give them all away. I'm a little bit behind on my mailing now, so I promise I'll get over to the post office and drop these in the mailbox to our new subscribers. But here's how you do it. Like, share, subscribe to the show. Very easy to do. Like, share, subscribe to the show, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Go over to allaccessfootball.com. Use our promo code RICVIP. That's going to take the price down from $30 down to $20. Okay, you get all of our insider intel, the 2026 NFL Draft Bible. I did the math. It comes out to 54 cents a day. So if you want to support the show, we greatly appreciate it. You'll get the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, all of our insider content, plus Value Picks, courtesy of Neil Stratton, that brings you inside the 2016 NFL Draft. 10-year anniversary. Neil worked very hard on this book. It's available over at Amazon. Over 100 interviews with GMs, scouts, front office executives, highlighting 8 picks from the 2016 NFL Draft, including Dak Prescott, Tyreek Hill, who's in the news, Derrick Henry, who's been in the news for his fumbling woes. Well, he takes you inside the war rooms and tells you how they made those selections, the logic, the thought process, how it all goes down. You've got testimonials here from George Patton, John Spytek, Les Snead, Mike Martin. So you'll get the Draft Bible, the Value Picks, and courtesy of Canadips, our new sponsor of the show. We're going to throw in a pack of Canadips. These go for about $30 or so. So you get a $75 value for $20. And again, kudos to the listeners. You guys have showed the support and really got down on it, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate Joe Everett in the chat room, man. Great to see our guy out there in Indianapolis. You know, we love to get interactive with the feedback. Drop us a line, drop us a question, concern, comment. But Joe Everett wants you to know, Russ, if you ever need a ride to the airport, he's got you covered, brother.
Hey, I appreciate that. So I've run into some issues there in Indianapolis. So anytime I can, A, know that I have that, and B, from a guy that is like a classic musician. You don't see that very often. I mean, this isn't just some guy that says, I'm going to pick up a trumpet or pick up a flute. I mean, this guy's legit, like orchestra stuff, like playing around the world. So
playing the cello, baby, all over the world.
Right. I'm gonna say I want to ride just so Joe can put the music on in the car.
Yeah, it's always good to see our good friend Joe Everett, a certified draftnik, part of the NFL Draft Bible Familia. And I told you we got one more game to preview, and it is the biggest one of the weekend. Undefeated Miami, national championship aspirations, number 3 in the country, at Florida State, number 18, 3-1. This one has heavy ACC implications. 7:30 p.m. over on ESPN. Russ, what do you got?
Well, first, I mean, you got to look at this and say, okay, Carson Beck, I think he's done a lot of the things that people wanted to see to show that he's the prospect people were talking about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, everybody's hyping this guy, first overall pick. Last year, really disappointing. Didn't play at the level people thought. People expected elite. There was a lot of ups and downs. There were flashes of elite. There was some inconsistency. I think this year you've seen a lot more consistency. The weirdest thing to me, though, I just have to say it, when I watch Carson Beck, forgetting the playing, I know he measures 6'03", 7'2", 233. If you were to ask me, as a former scout who's watched this game forever, I would guess about 6'4", about 185. This guy looks like a toothpick when he's in there playing quarterback. And I'm not trying to knock him. He just looks so thin. It's stunning. He's 230. He's been much better this year. Really impressive. Everybody knew, I think, C.J. Daniels coming into the year would be one of his primary weapons. I think a little bit of a surprise has been the Keelan Marion kid, the transfer from BYU. He's been really productive, actually, as productive as Daniels, given 2 really good weapons. Their offensive line, inconsistent. Markel Bell, we talked about him, I think it was the first or second week, a massive human being. 6'8" 7/8", 350 pounds, 36 plus arms, but he's been very up and down. He's been in and out of the lineup, and it's frustrating because when you watch him play, he should be so much better. They're strong at the interior offensive line, which has helped, I think, Beck play better this year. I think their offense is not flashy, but they're quietly efficient, and Beck is not putting the ball into bad spots. So I think they're going to be a tough team to blow out. They're going to keep the game close. I think they're going to be efficient on offense. I think Beck is going to make good plays. But I do think it's going to be a close game. I mean, I think Miami's defense, they're playing better than I think people expected. I'm biased to the Akeem Mesidor kid because he is Canadian. He's played very well this year. What's that? Ottawa, exactly. He's played very well this year. But I think it's going to be a challenge. I mean, Florida State, up until this most recent game, they've been playing very good football. Castellanos has been surprisingly efficient, both throwing the ball and running with the ball. And although I know you bring up underclassmen a lot. I generally only talk about the seniors. I got to admit, the Deuce Robinson kid for Florida State, you have to look at this kid, and you just got to think, okay, what could he be? Because he's a humongous human at 6'6", 230 plus. Played at USC, transfers over, and is he the Blazer? No. I mean, let's be realistic. He's not running a 4.3, so I understand that. But he's a big athletic kid who can run for a big kid, plucks the ball. I'm very interested to see where he turns out. The other kid that I'm intrigued to watch this week, he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time on offense, but he's one of their more versatile receivers, is the Squirrel White kid. He's their leading punt returner. He was productive, played a lot prior to this. He is a guy I think can make some plays in the open field. To me, I would try to line up him and Deuce on the same side of the field a lot because I'd want to create some mismatches with a gigantic human being and a little munchkin guy. They have a good offensive line, a lot of veteran guys. You have Gunnar Henson at tackle. You have Micah Pettis at the other tackle, so they're
Yeah.
solid there. Luke Pettibone at center. They are a good, solid offensive line, veteran guys that are going to get NFL looks. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's really going to come down to if Beck can make one or two big plays. I do think Miami will win this game, but I think it's going to be very close. I can't wait to watch Deuce Robinson. He is one of my more enjoyable guys I've gotten to see this year.
Yeah, he's a playmaker, electrifying, big-bodied, athletic, vertical, can go up and get it. Had a monster week, I think, last week. And you mentioned Keelan Marion, and, I think you're right. He came over from BYU, but once upon a time,
The UConn guy.
he began in UConn, and I watched him quite a bit. And the issue with Marion, and with these wide receivers, their hammies can tend to flare up. He always has a hammy or something. It just seems to be lingering. But when he's healthy and he's on, this kid's quick. He's fast. He returns kicks. He's a speed burner, Keelan Marion. And, I think there's going to be a home for him in the NFL, maybe even a day 3 selection. And they also got a good one in Mohamed Toure from Rutgers, who missed the last 2 seasons. Tore, I think, his ACL a couple times, but man, he's been playing lights out at 6'2", 240 pounds. And Coach Schiano told me this guy is going to test as well as anyone when it comes to the linebacker position. So just a name to keep an eye on there. You mentioned Carson Beck. I wrote about him on Wednesday, I think it was, on the All Access Football Report. And I mean, you can state a very strong argument. I think you'll see it today because of the experience, big game pedigree, battle tested, cool under pressure. I mean, if I was starting a team tomorrow, Russ, and just had to pick the most pro-ready quarterback at the college football level, I would state a strong argument for Carson Beck.
Yeah, I got to agree. I mean, I think him, and I will say, I think that kid from Western Kentucky's got to be in the discussion. But yeah, Beck is pro-ready, and I think the thing that we talk about a lot, and I think statistically the data is unbelievable about one-year starting quarterbacks getting to the NFL and succeeding. Almost none of them ever do. They all fail.
It's amazing.
And part of that is it's the emotional ups and downs. You have to learn to deal with failure. You have to learn to deal with when the opponent takes away what you're good at. Well, Beck has been up and down and through it all. And just look at Bo Nix. I think when Bo was at Auburn, nobody would have predicted first-round good starter in the NFL. People thought wildly inconsistent. Well, maybe you, but wildly inconsistent, all those things.
Joe Ever gave me a lot of heat for that, by the way.
But what helped him, right? The struggles at Auburn, basically being pushed out of Auburn, having to go to Oregon, reestablish himself, deal with the ups and downs. I think that's a lot of what has helped Beck. I will bet, I don't know, that when the interview process comes for the NFL, I'll bet you he's going to kill the interviews because he's matured. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of being successful in the NFL is you and I have been doing this. The third time I'm saying this today. You and I have been doing this forever. When teams interview quarterbacks, they want to get a feel for, do they love the process? Do they love the Monday to Friday? That's what makes a quarterback. Yes, how they play in games matters, but you're not going to play well in games on a regular basis if you don't love and learn to love the minutia of watching hours of film to pick up one linebacker and how he settles when they're in zone versus man. The little things, you have to love that. And I think Beck is going to kill the interviews and show that he's learned to love the process. And I think that's going to be a big part of why he goes higher than I think people anticipated after last year's sort of up and down season.
Yeah, no doubt. And I got a quote by him this week, as a matter of fact, because, he went over to Miami. He had the thing with the girlfriend, the NIL, who's kind of talked about Miami spotlight. But he said, it's really weird because my whole life I've been an introvert. He said, whether people believe it or not, I've really tried to stay out of the limelight. But he said, a lot of times in my position, you can't, because there is that hyper-focused attention on you. I probably put myself in some situations that wouldn't align with me, and saying I try to stay out of the limelight, but obviously that's on me. And that's spoken like a true professional right there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The great thing you want to see from any player is you want to see the maturity to be able to explain what their situation is, why they've done things. And I think we can see sort of the exact opposite of that. Just look at what you've seen as a pro from Shedeur Sanders. The statements, because I don't think anybody denies the physical talent. But some of the statements, some of the comments, those aren't what you expect from the guy who's going to be under center for you. So when you see a Carson Beck making these mature statements, it gives you a really good feeling that, hey, this is going to be the guy who can handle what's thrown at him.
No doubt.
So to me, it's really, I think, a really nice story. Because I think if you'd asked people a year ago or even 6 months ago, where's Carson Beck? I think a lot of people would say, I don't know if he's even a prospect. Last year was really bad. Is he the guy? And I think this year he has shown physically he can do a lot. He can do just about everything. And mentally, it seems like there's a maturity that we all get, hopefully, when we're 20, 21, 22, that he seems to be showing on the field. So I'm excited for him. I can't wait to see him at one of the All-Star games, probably in Mobile, and see how he does both on the field and hear how he does in the interview process.
Yeah, that'll be great to see him down in Mobile. And, these Hurricanes have national championship aspirations, and who knows, Carson Beck could have Heisman Trophy aspirations after a big win in Florida State if they should pull it off. And this Hurricanes team is just locked and loaded. I mean, Ruben Bain, potential #1 overall pick in the entire draft. A little bit weird of body frame, 6'2" and 5'8", 275 pounds. Obviously has inside-outside versatility, but he's been really making a living on the edge. Violent hands, sheds blockers, making plays all over the field, forced fumbles. I think he has an interception. Coaches talk about how smart he is, the strength, the eye discipline, read and react. I mean, Ruben Bain, what's not to like, right?
No, you make a great point. I mean, when you look at a guy that's 270, immediately you almost want to say he's undersized for an inside guy, too big outside. But when you watch this guy, that's not even a concern. You really say, okay, this guy can do it. Now, where is he going to fit at the next level? I don't know. I think that's going to a lot be scheme dependent, what a team wants at what spot. But when you look at what he does on the field, how athletic he is, how he understands what's going on, there's a lot to look at and say this guy's going to be playing a long time on Sundays.
Yeah, Mike Norvell, the Florida State head coach, saying he's Bain that is playing as good as he's ever played. You saw it come in as a freshman and flash. Last year was solid, took his game to an elite level. They're moving him around. He's not stationary. He's playing hard against the run, been great against the pass, complete player, and one of the best positions, defensive ends at his position. Francis Mawuga, the offensive tackle, I butchered his name, out of Samoa, 6'5" and 6'8", Russ, 315 pounds, mammoth tackle, probably another first-round projection. And, they're locked and loaded, these Miami Hurricanes, they are. And Mark Fletcher, running back, another name to keep an eye on there in the backfield. And, I mean, like I said, we've got almost 3 dozen players here on the allaccessfootball.com website. We must mention Darrell Jackson, who's playing very well on that Florida State defensive line, 340-pound people eater. And then Earl Little Jr., the cornerback, and Shaheem Brown, the safety, back in the back end of the Florida State defense. So just some other names that you need to know. I don't know. I think Miami is going to be too much for Florida State. Florida State's going to be having payback on their mind, revenge. And, I saw this about Carson Beck because he actually beat the Florida Gators twice and Florida State twice while he was at Georgia, and he could become the first quarterback to go 5-0 against the Seminoles and Gators. Ready for this one? Since Brock Berlin.
Ooh, there's the name. There's the name of a short little quarterback. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
a blast from the past, Russ.
That's right. Yeah.
So I got a kick out of that when I saw that little factoid, and that was way back in 2003, 2004. You got to go back in the Wayback Machine for that one.
Next, you're going to throw me some Bobby Hoying trivia or something like that.
Yes. What was he? 1992, I think. Bobby Hoying.
There you
All
go.
right. So I've got Miami. They're favored by 3.5. I think it'll be close, but I think Miami covers this one on the road and stays undefeated. How do you see it, Russ?
I agree with you. I think, to me, Miami wins by 7 to 10 points. The Florida State to win is Deuce Robinson. Is he going to make 1 or 2 game-changing plays to keep that offense in the game? Otherwise, I think it's just going to be too hard for them against what I think is an underrated defense. I think Miami's going to be efficient. They're not going to turn the ball over. I think they win this game by, like I said, about 10 to 12 points.
All right. We went a little bit overtime today here on this hour of power. Taking a quick look ahead. Next week, some key games. Ohio State at Illinois. Alabama again at Missouri. Indiana at Oregon. and Oklahoma at Texas. I have a feeling we'll be talking about those two games, Russ.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, Indiana, Oregon. I
And
can't
those
wait.
are versus Dante Moore. Wow. I just
Right?
realized that. Unbelievable.
Dante Moore, which truthfully, you look at him, and there's a little bit about him. I'm not saying he's going to be a 7th round pick, but a little bit of Quinn Ewers, #1 prospect, goes to UCLA, plays there for a little bit, doesn't work out, comes back to Oregon where he's from. First year there, he's really, I think a lot of people didn't expect this explosion. He's been so efficient, made so many correct decisions on the field for a young kid. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. So I can't wait to see Indiana, Oregon.
Yeah, and I thought Dante Moore was the better-looking pro prospect in that Penn State game. Drew Alar, man, I just
really struggled. Yeah. His footwork looked awful. He looked very nervous in the pocket. I was very disappointed. There were about 4 throws he made in the game. I said, okay, that's the Drew Alar I remember. And there was about 15 or 20 where I said, what is he doing? He looked so nervous in the pocket. It was scary.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned for Drew Alar. I think I mentioned he looks more like Christian Hackenberg than he does Kerry Collins.
The thing that scared me a little bit when I'm watching him, the guys whose name popped into my head and it scares me is when I watched him, the nervousness in the pocket, a little bit of Blake Bortles. Because that was when I remember back to Bortles when he came out. Every tool in the world, but he just never felt comfortable in the pocket. That's the one thing you give it. That's one game. I don't want to kill Drew Alar. He's had some really phenomenal games where he looked like a star. But that game, wow, I was surprised. He just didn't ever sit back and be comfortable. And I know he was under pressure. They were coming. They were getting a lot of heat on him. But he just never looked comfortable in the pocket. He looked very nervous throughout the game.
Agree. And I think his draft stock now is tanking for Drew Alar. So we'll come back next week and preview some more matchups. Any parting shots for the people, Russ? Any good plans here on your college football Saturday afternoon? You're back in Chicago, home from London.
I got big plans. I had to postpone it because I didn't want to risk not being prepared to talk with you. But Leeds United was on at 6:30 this morning. So I got to go put on Leeds United. I didn't even get to tell you that while I was in London, I got to go see Arsenal play at home. It was unbelievable. What a great experience.
How cool is that? How many people in that stadium?
62,000, owned by Rams owner Stan Kroenke, who I worked for many years ago. What a great experience. They were playing, and I'm going to screw this up, Olympiakos, I think it is called, the Greek team, part of the UEFA. What an unbelievable experience. But you would have laughed, Rick. Like, we joke about, like, security. To go in the stadium, you have to walk in this little hallway that's like 3 feet, right? You fit in maybe 2 feet, 3 feet, and there's a literally steel bars in front of you. Stops you. You have to scan. The bars open for one person to come in, and then they shut. That's every entrance for every fan. They do not screw around. It was really unbelievable. One of the best experiences I've had going to a sporting event. The chanting, the crowd. I can't wait to go back. So it was awesome. And they got poker tonight. So it's all rounding up.
Football Americano, poker. What do you want from Saturday?
And I get to see Rick. That's all that matters, right?
Topping it up, breaking it down like we do each and every Saturday. Appreciate the time, Russ, and going overtime with us here on this 34th edition of the All Access Football Daily Show. We'll be back at it again tomorrow on October 5th for our 35th edition. Of course, we'll turn the page over to the NFL side of things, and I think I'm holding strong 38-27 against the spread on the season on my
That's
NFL. Hey, we're getting there. So
is it me, or are we starting to get to that point in the NFL where some of these teams that are really in trouble might be saying, all right, time to pull the plug, like the college teams? I mean, I think we're getting right to that point where it's no longer about can we get better, can we improve. The teams that are could be 0-5, 1-4, 0-6. I think you're going to start to see some antsy owners say, you know what, I got to make the move. I want to get started on filling these roles, filling and finding a good head coach.
Well, speaking of that, Russ, right there in London tomorrow morning, Dylan Gabriel making his Cleveland Browns starting debut. So there you go.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, if you're the Browns, and I actually think their coach, I think Stefanski is a phenomenal coach. I mean, he's been able to win with nobody's at quarterback over the last 5 or 6 years.
The only 2-time coach of the year currently in the NFL.
Yep, two-time coach of the year. And I don't want to rip anybody. I don't know their front office from a hole in the wall, but that is not a good team. When you look at that team in terms of talent, they're lacking in a lot of areas. And this coach finds a way to piecemeal it together and win. And now they have to put their hopes on a quarterback that just came in the league. And I think entering last year, if you'd asked NFL people where he was before last year, they would have said barely on the radar. And he had a good year, third-round pick. But he's got to go out there and carry a team. Not many rookies can do this. So I feel bad for the kid. It's going to be a major challenge. I hope that he can provide a spark and maybe they win. But I have a bad feeling that things could go real sideways in Cleveland over the next month or two.
Yeah, they're going to run into the Wentz wagon there. Carson Wentz, they're really milking everything and squeezing everything out of that Carson Wentz experiment up in Minnesota.
Well, I will say there were a lot of Vikings and Browns jerseys for sale in London, which I don't think you would ever see that in a normal occasion because those aren't the teams that they're rooting for in London.
Yeah, no, that's cool, though. I see our good friend Tom Goodhines with a shout-out to the best breaking it down over in the chat room. Always appreciate Tom Goodhines in the chat room. Of course, we had Joe Everett earlier in the show. There it is. Hey, he's got you covered on the airport ride there, Russ. And we appreciate everybody who tuned in. We'll be back at it again tomorrow. And Russ, thank you so much. Enjoy your football Americano, and poker. And we'll chop it up again next week, brother.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Hey, RIC in a place to be. Ric Serritella checking in from the legendary Jersey Shore for the world-famous All Access Football, and you're tuned in to the All Access Football Daily Show, our newest venture here at the world-famous All Access Football, read by all 32 NFL teams and 50,000 subscribers from around the world. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to work in this great game of football for the past 2 decades. It's our 24th season of providing you independent analysis when it comes to the NFL draft and everything pigskin, whether it's the NFL, college football, NFL draft, CFL, UFL. We'll be with you each step of the way, especially for draft season when we really get into high mode. Of course, it's all brought to you by the 2026 NFL Draft Bible, published in April, featuring over 500 in-depth scouting reports with our boots-on-the-ground analysis. We'll be on location at the All-Star Games, the NFL Scouting Combine, the Pro Day Circuit, counting you down to that 2026 NFL Draft in Pittsburgh. And be sure you check us out over at allaccessfootball.com. We've got a great promo discount for you listeners at home. If you enter our promo code RICVIP, you'll get a 30% discount off of all of our premium content. You'll unlock the magic. Get our NFL Draft Insider Reports, Scouting Notebook, of course, the World Football All Access Football Report, published on Wednesday. It's your new home for real football talk. So follow along, give us a shout. We hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X, please give it a like, a share, a subscribe, and we'll be with you each and every day here, 7 days a week, live, 10 a.m. Eastern, no days off, rain, sleet, hail, snow. The show must go on. For Ric Serritella and the All Access Football Daily Show, keep it locked, everybody.